Good morning, folks. Everything new under the sun. Here's an update from Syria. It appears as though the S300 apparently are now, again supposedly, ready to go. So let's take a look at this article. This is from Ynet News. Syria's Russian-made air defense system appears ready for use. Russian-supplied S300 appear to have become operational, according to satellite images taken by Israeli ImageSat International Company and published by the Israeli military Wednesday, so yesterday. 3 out of 4 aerial defense batteries were captured in an upright position, while the fourth one remained covered by a net. The development might endanger Israeli Air Force missions against Iranian targets, and that's significant because the second article we're going to take a look at. Further detail here, the anti-aircraft missile system was delivered to Bashar Assad by the Russian defense in October after the downing of the Russian spy plane, but apparently wasn't operational until now. According to this article, Russian officials insist that Israel bears responsibility for Syrian downing. It says, although the batteries have reportedly been operational for nearly 4 months, this is the first time the defense system has been photographed in an upright position. The batteries are still believed to be in the hands of Russian troops, who will continue training Syrian military personnel on the use of the S-300 in the coming months. So interesting situation here, if this is true, and we thought they were operational before, maybe just the S-200s were operational, etc. But now what they're saying is the S-300s are actually erected and ready to go. This means that Israel and the U.S. will not be able to do strikes, and this is likely part of the issue with the hooks in the jaw of Russia. I suspect, and I'll speculate here, that maybe Israel gets around these S-300s once and for all, once they're up and running officially. And this is the great embarrassment of the Russian military, that Israel is able to get around them somehow and still take out Iranian weapons. And that ends up really convincing Russia to go to war against Israel, along with the allied nations in the Gog-Magog attack. So let's see this another article here from Haaretz. Burned by Israel's strikes, which may not happen anymore with the S-300 now. Iran to move weapon supply out of Damascus, so this is interesting. Iranians are likely headed to Syrian T4 air base, which was struck by Israel twice last year. So if they're moving the weapons and Israel's going to attempt to destroy them, maybe on the way to the new air base or otherwise, again, how is the S-300 going to plan this? Iran would like to move its weapons supply center for Syria from the Damascus International Airport to a Syrian air base located very far from the capital city, specifically the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. It goes on. I can't read the rest of the article, but I'll put the links in the description. But an interesting situation again. That the S-300 is up and running. Iran seems to be moving weapons away from Damascus. What does this mean for Isaiah 17? The destruction of Damascus? Does this mean that maybe Israel's focus will start moving away from Damascus? So maybe the Isaiah 17 fulfillment is closer than we think, while the weapons are still in and around Damascus? I don't know. It's an interesting, like I say, set of circumstances. When will Iran choose to move? Apparently they haven't actually moved them yet. And how does the S-300 play into it? Maybe Israel says, you know what, this is our last opportunity to hit these weapons in Syria while we know exactly where they are before they start moving things. And could that be the Isaiah 17 strike? I don't know. We're looking at these things and we're saying, how do these military movements, how does this intelligence play into end-time Bible prophecy? And I'm just putting the speculation out there that that's exactly what it could be. While I'm making the video, I figure I'll make one video instead of multiple. There is this article. This is from TASS, and this is apparently the reason why that the U.S. dropped out of the INF treaty, the nuclear missile treaty. Russia's top diplomat indicates U.S. deploying missile launchers to Japan, and that violates the INF. Earlier, U.S. President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Pompeo said Washington would suspend its obligation under the INF Treaty starting February 2nd. So that's the big situation, the escalation, the unabated um, buildup of weapons and arms race. It says, as for the INF Treaty and the Kuril Islands, there is a certain link here since the placement of U.S. global missile shield launchers on Japan's soil is among the problems that exist in our relationship with our Japanese neighbors in the sphere of security. These launchers are similar to the systems that have been deployed by the Americans in Romania and will be deployed in Poland. These are nations around Russia, obviously, and Russia doesn't like this. The so-called Mk-41 launcher, Russian top diplomat pointed out. Formerly, these systems are deployed to launch interceptors, but they can also be used to launch ground-based Tomahawk attack cruise missiles, which is a direct violation of the INF Treaty. So interesting situation there as Russia's accusing the U.S. of setting up missile systems which violate the INF Treaty, whether or not they agree to it, and being on the Japanese soil, likely to get closer to China, for example, to have a more forward operating defensive location in Japan, as the U.S. has missile systems around the NATO borderline around Russia, which Russia doesn't like. So encroaching on Russia and China is the U.S., and the U.S. doesn't, and the Russia and China don't like, obviously, the U.S. military buildup directly on their borders without their own ability to set up missile systems directly on the border of the U.S. Simply because strategically it's hard to do that. Logistically, it's hard to do that since North America is all kind of one big block of land, obviously, and so you can't put your weapons in a neighboring friendly country to attack the U.S., if you will. Although they are trying to do that, in Venezuela, Cuba. These are the other nations that have been jumping off points for, Russian military in the past. So something to think about as we look at the escalation of events in the Middle East and the situation as the world heads towards war and rumors of war. Nations rise against nations, and this is all part of the biblical narrative and part of what we expect to see in these last days. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll leave it there, and we'll see you guys in the next video.